Dreams are not random flickers of the brain, they are gates, territories of the soul, where heaven and hell both seek entrance. What you see at night is not simply imagination, it is influence invasion, a battlefield disguised as sleep, and what most people don't know is that the choices made in the secret hours of the body can determine who walks freely through those gates. Masturbation may feel like a private act, but in the unseen world it is a signal flare. Every indulgence is like unlocking a back door to the soul, telling spirits, the gate is open, come inside. And they do. They slip into your dream world, planting counterfeit pleasures, seductive illusions, nightmares, dressed as desires. They steal clarity, they twist vision, they smother divine encounters with shadows of shame. What seems harmless in the flesh becomes devastating in the spirit, because evil knows the dream world is where destinies are written and futures are revealed. To control your dreams is to hijack your life, and that is why lust is more than temptation. It is a spiritual strategy. The question is not if spirits are watching, the question is whose hand holds the key to your dreams, a hidden gate that exists in the deepest part of the human soul. Every thought you entertain, every image you feed upon, every craving you allow to linger, turns the key of that gate. And make no mistake, this gate does not stand unguarded. On one side waits the light of divine purpose. On the other waits the shadows, patient and cunning, ready to exploit even the smallest crack. Lust disguises itself as harmless pleasure, but spiritually it is an invitation. When desire bends toward lust, it does not open into freedom, it opens into captivity. You may believe you are acting alone in secret, but unseen forces are watching, waiting and eager to step through the gate you unlock. Masturbation, pornography, indulgence in lust. These are not isolated acts of weakness. They are sacrifices placed on an altar, and altars always summon spirit. This is the danger of the hidden gate of desire. What feels private in the body is public in the spirit. Every indulgence is a trade. You receive moments of pleasure, but in exchange, you lose clarity, peace and pieces of your. Over time the cost rises. Your creativity becomes dulled, your dreams become distorted, your vision of the future fogs over. You may not even notice the slow erosion, but the enemy is patient. Demons don't need to steal everything in one night. They take little by little until nothing remains untouched. Unchecked desire turns the dream world into a battle. Instead of divine visions, you receive counterfeit encounters, seductive dreams, confusing illusions, shadows, dressed as lovers. What was meant to be a place where God reveals destiny becomes a playground for deception. That is why discipline over desire is not just moral restraint. It is spiritual warfare. To guard your desires is to guard your destiny. To master the gate is to decide who has access to your inner world, because in the end the gate will never remain closed forever. It will open to someone. And the question that will define your future is this: will it open to the light of heaven or the shadows of the enemy? 2. The spiritual economy of exchange. Nothing in the spiritual realm is free. Every thought, every action, every indulgence carries a price. What the world calls harmless pleasure, heaven and hell recognize as a transaction. There is an economy operating in the unseen, a system where choices become currency and destinies are bought or lost. This is the spiritual economy of exchange, and lust is one of its most dangerous trades. When a person gives in to masturbation or secret indulgence, they rarely see the cost. They imagine it as a private act, sealed off from consequence. But in the spiritual dimension, nothing is private. Every indulgence is like a signature on a contract. You receive a fleeting thrill, but the enemy collects something far greater in return. Your peace, your clarity, your authority. Think of it as a marketplace. On one side stands purity, which is currency for strength, vision and divine encounter. On the other side stands lust, which demands payment but never satisfies. Each time you fall, you hand over another coin of destiny. You lose fragments of creativity, confidence, spiritual boldness. Over time these small payments add up, until you find yourself bankrupt of the very things that once gave your life meaning. The enemy is patient. He does not rob in one night. He collects little by little, addiction by addiction, shame by shame. At first, the loss feels invisible. You still function. You still move through life, but quietly, your vision dims. Dreams that were once clear become fogged. Inspiration that once flowed feels dry. The crown of authority you were meant to wear begins to slip, and you don't even notice, because you're distracted by the counterfeit pleasures you think you are gaining. This is how inheritance is stolen. A chosen one bound in cycles of lust becomes like a king who hands over his crown willingly. His throne remains, but his authority is gone. His destiny is intact, but his power to walk in it is crippled. Demons do not need to destroy you if they can buy you out of your inheritance with cheap exchanges. And dreams are the most expensive currency in this economy. Your dream world was designed as a place where God reveals blueprints, warnings and promises. But when lust controls your gates, the enemy hijacks that territory. Instead of visions that prepare you for purpose, you receive illusions that bind you deeper, seductive dreams, nightmares of fear, encounters of shame. What was meant to build your future now becomes a playground for spirits that rewrite. This is why lust is not merely a weakness. It is a trade. Each act is a bargain, and the enemy always comes out richer than you. You think you are gaining release, but you are losing inheritance. You think you are gaining comfort, but you are losing clarity. You think you are gaining control, but you are being enslaved. The spiritual economy cannot be avoided. You are always trading. The only question is, are you investing in your destiny or mortgaging it to the enemy? Purity, discipline, and obedience are not rules to restrict you. They are currencies that purchase freedom, authority, and vision. Lust, indulgence, and compromise are not accidents. They are currencies that drain you of the future God intended. The truth is this: the economy of exchange is always operating. Every day you either deposit into your destiny or withdraw from it. Every act is a seed, every indulgence a trade, every thought an investment. And if you will not spend your strength building your future, evil spirits will gladly spend it dismantling it. The choice is not whether you will trade, the choice is what you will buy, and what you are willing to lose. 3. The battlefield of dreams. When your eyes close at night, you do not simply rest, you enter a realm more real than flesh and blood. Dreams are not random flashes of memory, they are battlegrounds. In that invisible field, heaven and hell wrestle for the direction of your life, and what you allow through the hidden gate of desire determines who controls the field. Masturbation is not just an act of the body, it is an opening of the spirit. Each indulgence tells the unseen, "Come, I am unguarded," and the enemy seizes the opportunity. They slip into your subconscious, weaving illusions that feel harmless but carry poison. Have you ever noticed how seductive figures appear in dreams, offering forbidden pleasures? That is no accident. These are counterfeit encounters designed to corrupt the soul while you sleep. Instead of divine visions where God plants instructions, warnings, and promises, you awaken with confusion, shame, and fear. What was meant to be a sanctuary of revelation becomes a playground of deception. Dreams once filled with creativity and clarity become swarmed with shadows, whispering lies. The enemy knows that if he can manipulate your dream world, he can twist the blueprint of your destiny. This is why many wake from the night weary, drained, or tormented. Their spirit fought battles they never understood, because they left the gates wide open. Night terrors, sexual dreams, endless cycles of shame. These are not random. They are evidence of spiritual warfare. You are not just dreaming. You are under attack. And the tragedy is this: every moment you indulge in lust by day, you weaken your authority by night. Every secret compromise gives the enemy one more foothold in the terrain of your subconscious. Slowly, your visions collapse. Prophetic clarity vanishes. The future that once burned bright within you fades into a fog. But understand this: the dream world was never meant to be a prison. It was designed as a meeting place between your creator and your soul, where instructions for life are written in symbols, and where visions are etched into eternity. When lust dominates, that sacred ground becomes occupied territory. But when purity is restored, the battlefield becomes a sanctuary once more. 4. The mockery of the soul. There is no sound darker in the spiritual world than the laughter of demons. It is not joy, it is mockery. And nothing fuels that laughter more than watching a chosen one chained to cycles of shame. They do not fear your mistakes, they feed on them. Because every time you fall, they don't just celebrate your weakness, they remind heaven of your wasted authority. This is the ancient strategy of humiliation. From the beginning, the enemy has sought not only to tempt, but to ridicule, to make God's image bearers despise themselves. When you indulge in secret sins, the trap is not only the act itself, it is the crushing weight of guilt that follows. You walk into prayer, but your words feel powerless. You dream of purpose, but your reflection looks like failure. This is not coincidence. It is calculated mockery, designed to silence your roar before you ever step onto the battlefield. The soul under bondage becomes a broken mirror. You look at yourself, but the reflection is twisted. Addiction whispers, you'll never be free. Depression insists, you're already defeated. Identity fractures until the warrior forgets he is a warrior at all. And when identity breaks, authority leaks away. The enemy knows that. That is why his goal is not just to tempt you, but to shame you. Not just to stain your hands, but to crush your spirit. Every fall in secret is turned into an accusation. In the open, every indulgence becomes ammunition for the enemy to remind you of your unworthiness. That is why so many live bound. Not because they cannot fight, but because they no longer believe they are worthy to fight. But here lies the truth. Shame is a weapon, not a verdict. The enemy mocks because he knows what you carry. He ridicules because he fears the moment you remember who you are. Demons only laugh at warriors who have forgotten their armor. And the day you rise, the laughter will turn to trembling. For the broken mirror can be mended, the shattered identity can be restored, and the same soul once mocked can become the very voice that silences darkness. If this message is cutting deep into your spirit, it's because you know the battle is real. But battles are not won with feelings. They are won with weapons. That's why I've written 7 biblical secrets to destroy lust, a guide forged from scripture and spiritual warfare truths to help you break free for good. Don't just listen, arm yourself. The enemy is relentless, but with these secrets, you can fight back with power and authority. The link to grab your copy is right below in the description and pinned comment. Your freedom doesn't wait. Take it today. 5. The counterfeit of intimacy. At the heart of every human soul is a hunger for connection. We were designed for intimacy, not just flesh with flesh, but spirit with spirit. True intimacy is sacred. It mirrors the union between God and his creation, a bond of trust, vulnerability, and love. But when lust takes the throne, it offers a counterfeit version of that intimacy, one that feels powerful in the moment, but leaves the soul emptier than before. Masturbation is one of the most deceptive counterfeits. It mimics closeness, but delivers isolation. It pretends to satisfy, but deepens the hunger. You may leave the act feeling spent, yet in the spirit you are starving. Why? Because the soul was never designed to be filled by shadows. It was designed to be nourished by love, by covenant, by connection rooted in truth. The counterfeit gives you release, but not relationship. It gives you sensation, but not fulfillment. And this is where spirits exploit the void. They know you crave intimacy, so they twist that longing into bondage. They whisper, this is enough. This is who you are. This is all you need. But every cycle of indulgence drives you further into loneliness, further from real connection. What should be the preparation for covenant becomes the rehearsal for isolation. This is why so many feel unseen, unloved, disconnected, even when surrounded by people. The counterfeit has trained them to accept isolation as normal. It has convinced them that quick satisfaction is safer than real vulnerability. But in truth, the soul is dying for something greater. Understand this. Intimacy is not just about bodies. It is about destiny. When God designed union, he designed it to multiply life, vision, and power. When spirits counterfeit intimacy, they design it to drain life, blur vision, and steal power. What you give to lust in private, you lose in love in public. What you pour into shadows, you cannot pour into covenant. But the counterfeit can be exposed. The moment you realize that lust is not love, that release is not intimacy, that pleasure is not purpose, that is the moment the chains begin to crack, because the counterfeit may imitate, but it cannot create. And when you refuse the imitation, you open yourself again to the reality of love that heals, builds, and restores. Lust knows this, and that is why its ultimate weapon is not simply pleasure but blindness. It does not just drain your strength. It clouds your sight. Like a fog rolling across a battlefield, it blinds the warrior to both the enemy and the path forward. When desire rules unchecked, discernment collapses. You no longer see people as souls. You see them as objects. You no longer see opportunities clearly. Your judgment is clouded by impulses. Even your dreams, once radiant with clarity, become distorted with shadow. What God meant to be a prophetic blueprint for your life becomes scrambled, replaced with counterfeit desires and illusions that pull you off course. This is how destinies are derailed, not in one violent crash, but in slow, subtle veering. 1 degree off today, another tomorrow, until years later you wake up far from the place you were called to be. And all along the fog of lust was steering you, not with force but with distraction. Creativity suffers too. The mind once bursting with ideas now feels barren. The voice once filled with conviction now trembles with doubt. The enemy knows that a man or woman without vision is a weapon without aim. You may still be powerful, but you are shooting arrows into the dark, and wasted aim is as dangerous as weakness. This is the tragedy of lust. It steals more than purity. It steals purpose. It makes you believe you are living when in truth, you are only existing. And while you are busy surviving, your destiny is slipping away. But here is the good news. The fog is not permanent. Vision can be restored. Purity clears the air. Discipline sharpens the sight. And when your eyes open again, you see not only who you are, but where you are meant to go. The enemy fears nothing more than a soul with restored vision. Because clarity is power. To see the path is to walk the path. To see destiny is to reclaim it. The fog may blind for a season, but the light of truth burns it away. And when it lifts, the warrior remembers his aim, and destiny becomes unstoppable again. 7. The awakening and the burning sword. There comes a moment in every battle where the warrior must wake up. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels convenient. Now. Because delay is the enemy's greatest ally. As long as you stay asleep, chained in routine, lost in indulgence, the gates remain open and the enemy walks freely. Awakening begins the moment you realize this is not just weakness. This is war. To awaken is to choose clarity over comfort. It is to stand in the rubble of broken cycles and declare, enough. This gate will not remain open. That decision is more powerful than 1,000 excuses. Because when you awaken, you begin to take back the night. But awakening without guarding is not enough. You must stand at the threshold with a weapon. And the weapon is discipline. The ancient scriptures speak of a flaming sword placed at Eden's gate after the fall, guarding the way to the tree of life. That image is not history. It is a blueprint. The burning sword is what you must wield over your own soul. It is the relentless vigilance to guard the gates of desire, to strike down temptation before it crosses the threshold. Every time you resist, the sword burns brighter. Every act of discipline is a strike against the darkness. And with each strike, the enemy learns, this soul is no longer unguarded. Victory over lust is not about perfection. It is about vigilance. You may stumble, but if you rise with sword in hand, you are still a threat. The only true defeat is surrender. And surrender is what demons crave, because they know that once you stand with flaming determination, their schemes cannot endure the fire. Awakening is the turning point. It is the moment you stop living as prey and start living as warrior. It is when the bed no longer becomes an altar of defeat, but a place of rest, guarded by fire. The burning sword is not just defense. It is destiny's protector. When you guard the gate, you guard your dreams. When you guard your dreams, you guard your... And the day you awaken with sword in hand, the night no longer belongs to the enemy. It belongs to you. And in the war against lust, the crown is not only freedom, it is authority, clarity, and unshakable destiny. When you rise from the ashes of defeat, purified and restored, you are not just surviving, you are reigning. The redeemed carry a weight that cannot be faked. Their eyes shine with vision, their words carry fire, their presence itself becomes a rebuke to darkness. Why? Because they have faced the pit, fought the chains, and emerged unbroken. The enemy cannot mock them anymore because their scars have become their testimony. This crown is not made of gold or jewels. It is made of clarity. It is the restoration of dreams once corrupted. It is the return of creativity that had been drained. It is the authority to walk into rooms and shift atmospheres, because purity carries power. Every dream once stolen now becomes a weapon. Every night once hijacked by shadows now becomes a canvas for divine visions. What the enemy meant for shame is transformed into strength. And understand this, redemption is not just personal. When you wear this crown, you become a signal to others still bound. Your freedom becomes their hope. Your clarity becomes their roadmap. You do not simply wear the crown, you pass its fire from head to head, generation to generation. Demons tremble at the sight of the redeemed, because they cannot enslave what has already been delivered. The chains they once rattled now lie shattered at your feet, and the laughter that once mocked you now falls silent. For the one who wears the crown has become more than a survivor. They have become a conqueror. This is the destiny of those who refuse the counterfeit, who guard the hidden gate, who wield the burning sword. They rise not as victims of desire, but as kings and queens of clarity. The redeemed do not bow to lust, lust bows to them. And so the crown rests on your head, glowing with authority, blazing with destiny. Wear it well, for the world does not need another voice silenced by shame. It needs warriors crowned by redemption, guarding the gates of their dreams with fire. You have walked through the shadows of desire, seen how the unseen uses your weakness as an entry point, and felt the weight of battles fought in silence. But now comes the most important truth. You are not powerless. The chains that mock you can be shattered. The night that once belonged to your enemy can be reclaimed. You were never created to live as prey. You were created to live as a warrior crowned with clarity and authority. The question is no longer whether spirits are fighting for your soul. They are. The question is whether you will stand up and fight back, because destiny does not wait for those who delay. Every day, every choice, every indulgence is a transaction. Either you are trading your inheritance away, or you are building the future you were born to carry. This battle is not about rules. It is about freedom. It is about waking up with vision instead of regret. It is about walking in confidence instead of shame. And it is about stepping into the life God has prepared for you without the chains of lust weighing you down. If you are tired of cycles, if you are weary of fighting the same battles, then it's time to arm yourself. That's why I've created a guide built on scripture and battle-tested truths. 7 biblical secrets to destroy lust before it destroys you. These are not empty words. They are strategies forged in the fire of spiritual warfare. Inside, you'll discover how to reclaim your authority, guard your gates, and walk in the freedom you were always meant to have. The link is waiting for you right now in the description and in the pinned comment. Don't leave this moment without taking action. Freedom is never handed over. It is seized. And today the power to destroy lust before it destroys you is within your reach. The enemy fears nothing more than a soul that decides to fight back. Decide today, take the weapon, step into freedom.